7 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. And we are about to learn something about our own history. And it is a subject that is endlessly fascinating to me, especially sometimes when we have historians who are able to connect what we've done as a country in the past, or maybe even as a world, what we've done as people in the past, and what's going on right now. And our next guest has been doing his share of our homework and has put much of it together in the book we're going to talk about. The book is called 1920, America's Great War. Our guest is the author of that book, Robert Conroy, on the phone. Let me just tell you a little bit about Robert before we say hello to him. He is obviously a history buff. He's the recipient of the Sidewise Award for Alternate Histories, an adjunct faculty member at Macomb College, Community College in Clinton, Michigan. Served 2 years in the U.S. Army, as a matter of fact, and clearly has an understanding and an appreciation of history. And there was one thing I read about him I wanted to say. He says, ignorance can be frustrating, outrageous, cruel, and above all, dangerous for everyone. Robert Conroy is on the phone. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Larry.
Thank you for being on the air with us today. We're going to learn something from you. Where are you right now?
Frankly, right now I'm in Warren, Michigan.
In Warren, Michigan. Okay. Now, it said in my notes that you were fascinated with World War II, but this book is about 1920.
Oh, I'm fascinated about just about all history.
Okay.
Let's face it, World War II is an enormous event. But what I feel strongly after doing a ton of reading is that the most significant event in the last 100 years was not World War II, but World War I. We're coming up on the centennial of the beginning of that thing, and sorry, I don't remember it. If you look at it, World War I caused the dissolution of empires, caused the Great Depression, caused World War II, the Holocaust, Mideast crisis, you name it, and anything bad in the last 100 years can be traced to World War I.
It's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that. Do you know one of the trivia questions that comes up, because we do a lot of trivia on the radio, is if you're watching a movie that was made in 1938 or whatever, and it's referring to World War I, or I'm sorry, that takes place, if the story takes place in 1938, and they're referring to World War I as World War I, then that's a mistake, because in the 30s they didn't refer to it that way. They referred to it as the Great War, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, largely the Great War, but I think some people were a little bit prescient and said, yeah, this is going to be World War I. A lot of historians were using that term.
Oh, that's interesting.
38, we were fighting, or excuse me, there was warfare in China. The Nazis were on the march, although they hadn't started really invading nations yet. But I think people could see the writing on the wall that there was going to be a World War II. Ergo, World War I.
Do the technological advances of 100 years ago contribute to the fact that we could even have a world war? And just, I guess, a double question at once: does the technology of today make it possible that even a World War III would be unavoidable?
I think we can avoid it. We had a concept in the 1960s in the Cold War called MAD, Mutually Assured Destruction, where everybody knew that we could destroy each other, so let's not, please. The technological advantages and disadvantages, one of the things I've got to be careful of when I'm writing a historical novel, particularly alternate history, is to get the logistics right. I can't have people in 1920 flying across the Atlantic. They didn't do that yet.
Right.
And, little things like that. In fact, I had one person, one of the amateur reviewers for Amazon, and frankly, sometimes I'd like to pound those people, tell me that Germany could not have invaded because Germany could not have an army. Why not? I gave them 3 years, undeterred. So the logistics, the technology have got to be right. And I work very hard at that. Yeah,
definitely, no question about it. So help us understand what it means to call something an alternative war. Or an alternate history. What does that mean when you say alternate history?
Okay, history is where I take an event and that went one way, and just simply said, what would have happened if it had gone the other way? Now, to be a very tragic experience recently was the fact that we just passed the 50th anniversary of JFK's death, and people profoundly feel that if he had lived, we would not have gotten into Vietnam. I've done a little bit of reading on that, too, and it may have just been the opposite. He was under intense pressure to go into a war and win a war because the Democratic Party at that time had been painted with being a party that loses wars. It was claimed that they lost with China, lost Korea. Then, of course, we have the Bay of Pigs and the Cuban Missile Crisis. When it comes to military at the time of Kennedy, we weren't doing anything right. And he was under intense pressure to enlarge the Vietnamese War. So who knows how that would have played out.
Maybe we would have had more of a Cuban war, huh?
We could have had. In fact, I have a funny you should mention it. I have an online book available only online right now called Castro's Bomb, in which Castro winds up getting one of the many tactical nuclear bombs that the Russians had left there. Now, he gets it the old-fashioned way. He steals it. But Castro at that time was outraged that he had been hung out to dry, and by the United States and the Soviet Union, he had been marginalized, and having him go crazy seemed fairly logical.
Yeah, it sure does, yeah.
In one part of the book, you had spoken about the Army and the Navy sharing quarters together.
Yes. Yeah, in the Presidio at San Francisco.
Yeah, that was a good read. I like that.
Yeah, that's one of the times they actually did manage to speak to each other.
Yeah.
Tremendous respect for the American general. I'm going to hurt myself now because I can't remember his name. But I thought he was a very, very solid general in actual World War I when he led a large part of the American Army, the AEF, against the Germans. The admiral, again, he was one of the co-inventors of the early computer. So he was an interesting.
You know, it's an interesting thing too that we've heard about many times is that some of the immigrants after World War I that came to America were actually America's enemy. They had fought for the Germans or whoever, and then they became Americans after the fact, and then their children grew up to become American soldiers fighting in World War II against the same enemy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing, and I've often wondered if some of those, and I think I've heard examples of this, so maybe it's a moot point to ask, but if some of those soldiers or sailors were sent to the other theater, in other words, the European theater may not have been where they would fight, simply because they had a connection to Europe from their ancestors.
They were sent, as a practical matter, they were sent everywhere. My grandparents' names were Schaefer, and they sent 3 kids, 2 of them to Europe and 1 to the Pacific. This was a non-issue by the 1940s. The only people who were worried in the 1940s, just to get away from World War I for a second, were, of course, the Americans who were concerned that the Japanese Americans were inherently traitors, which was proved to be nonsense. Now, they actually recruited a bunch of volunteers, regiments of Japanese Americans, and they went to fight in Italy. And in part because they were afraid that American GIs, a Japanese American uniform, would kill them.
Right.
How did the government know that when the people they hired to work for them as spies that they would stay true to America and they wouldn't turn?
That's an interesting question. I don't recall that issue ever being raised. I can tell you that in England they caught a number of German spies and made them a bargain they couldn't refuse. You become double agents or we'll kill you. So they became very loyal double agents. And none of them ever switched back. The issue with regard to German ancestry was a non-issue. With regard to Japanese ancestry, it was a great concern to the people in the government of California and the territory of Hawaii, and of course the federal government, because there was an element of racism there, a very large one. But the Germans were considered, well, okay, well, of course, we're at war with Italy, too. Now, if you take away everybody who is either of Italian or German descent, there's not many left.
Right, exactly.
Huh. The book is called 1920, America's Great War. Our guest is Robert Conroy. He's the author. So this is a historical novel. You've taken history and rewritten it. Is that fair to say?
That is very fair.
Okay. Now, earlier when you mentioned about the connection of many of the things in the world right now, going back to World War I, the Mideast crisis is one of those things. It seems like Israel and Palestine and the Mideast crisis in general is at the core of almost everything we do. I mean, our conversations right now, well, maybe not with Korea.
Yeah.
But so much of what we do still stems from all of that. Could we have rewritten history so that wouldn't have happened? Is there a way to recreate the nation of Israel without the Palestinians getting upset that we did?
Probably not.
Yeah.
As the Palestinians were never that numerous. And of course the Israelis who became the Israelis were in large part survivors of concentration camps. And they wanted to go where they would be safe, and they were going to make sure they were safe.
Mm-hmm.
So you had, after that, I know the British tried to stop the immigration into the Holy Land, if you will, and they failed miserably because people just kept walking in.
You had spoken about submarines in the book and different battles, and that 3 U.S. submarines were lost, but then you posed the question at the end of the chapter, but who had won? And that was very fascinating for me to read that.
Thank you.
The prep material for this interview has us asking you about the NSA and the whole the breach of security, I guess, from Snowden. Make the connection for me as to why my notes want me to go in that direction. I often don't use my notes when I'm doing an interview, but in this case I feel like I should, because maybe we're not going in the direction you wanted the interview to go.
No, I'm very happy with the direction. We want to talk about my books all the time.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. I think the Snowden story is fading, is what it boils down to. And I think he is being trivialized. He's probably a traitor, and although will he ever be charged with that, I doubt it. The people who were all upset about us listening in on their conversations, they seem to have huffed for a few days, and now everything's back to normal. So, no, I think that lead-in is kind of going away.
Okay. So we won't go that direction. I saw it in my notes here, and I was saying, well, maybe I should ask about it. Maybe there's something I'm missing here. Mm-hmm. But I guess the way I can connect it to that is, espionage or spying has always been a part of history. And did any of that play a role in your rewriting of history?
Oh, yes. If you look at 1920, and I have the Germans going in and trying to take over California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Did I say Texas?
Yes.
This is one of those fascinating. Do you ever hear that something called the Zimmerman telegram?
No,
I haven't.
No.
Okay. In 1917, real history. And during the real World War I, Germany made a pitch to Mexico. Said, "We will help you if you help us. We will help you get back Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California." Now, helping them obviously meant war. Now, when Woodrow Wilson found out about this, a very sick, inept president, he was outraged. And just to put this in perspective, this is one of the few times when we declared war first. We declared war on Germany because we were so outraged. Submarine warfare and then the Zimmerman telegram. So I just had it come a few years later. Or earlier, actually.
Oh, interesting. Robert, are you okay with taking calls from listeners?
Sure.
Okay, let's go to the phone. Again, Robert Conroy is our guest, a historian, I guess you could say. He's the recipient of the Sidewise Award for Alternate History. It's a fascinating award in itself, and now that we understand it especially. And this book is called 1920, America's Great War. Good morning. Thank you for being patient. You're on the air.
Good morning. What I'm amazed at was the consequences that came about after the conclusion of World War I. And that would have been the banking and economic consequences, the fact that most of these European unions had all kinds of colonies all over the world, and the fact that the World War I and the cost of it and the cost to people caused a lot of these countries to give up on their colonies, or actually they were taken away, i.e., the Germans' occupation of different parts of Africa, and basically what happened with the French colonies, etc., etc. And I'm amazed that nobody's really hit that end of it. You know, the consequences of declaring war or having a World War I and what took place afterwards. I'm just hang up and listen to your comments on that. It's very interesting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the call.
Thank you very much. Bear in mind that there were, I think, 4 empires: the Ottoman, the Russian Empire, the Romanovs, and there's got to be a 4th one in there someplace. They all disintegrated, as the caller said. These colonies and empires fragmented. It turned into chaos. And again, this is one of the ripple effects of World War I. The caller is absolutely correct. It was devastating, and of course, everything else, the economic upheaval. I started once to write a list of all the things that came out as a result of World War I, and it was extremely lengthy. But your caller is absolutely correct. One of the fascinating things about writing alternate history is not, for instance, having JFK, for instance, survive his assassination. Well, what then? Okay. And what ripple effects happened to B to C to D? And frankly, it's an awful lot of fun to sit back and figure that out. Because of all things, if I'm going to write something about alternate history, it's got to be plausible. You know, I can't have jet planes in 1920, or one gentleman wrote something that was categorized as alternate history, but he had, and it was a good book, but I didn't think it was alternate history because he had time travel. And right away, that loses me.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Do you know what's interesting about what you are doing, though, is if you could write alternate future and kind of give us an understanding of what will happen if, and then maybe take us in 2 different directions since we don't have either one of those directions established yet. It might save us from going on the wrong. In other words, if you knew which path was the best path out of a fork in the road, and, you know what I mean? I don't know if that would work, but
well, that would be pure science fiction, and to a large extent, this is what the late Tom Clancy did, writing about near future using just slightly upgraded technology. I don't know if you've ever read Tom Clancy's novels.
Have we had him on?
Yeah.
And it's years ago, I think we had him on. Yeah.
What is your opinion about transparency in government for everything? Because I know the presidents come in and they always promise a transparent government, and there's nothing transparent about it. Don't you think that if there was transparency, especially in the security-wise, that this would be a better world with everybody knowing what everybody else is doing?
There's only one problem with that theory. The other guys aren't going to tell you. We want to be transparent. Try telling that to the Israelis or the British or the Russians. They're not going to, they don't want to be transparent. And if we're going to take part in unilateral transparency, nobody's going to talk to us.
No, that's right.
Absolutely true, I'm sure. I love this conversation, Robert. We've run out of time, though. Before we totally run out of time, let me give away the copy I have. It is an uncorrected proof. So it's kind of like a collector's item. It's called 1920 America's Great War. I'll give it away to the first person who asks for it. The rest of us do have to go buy it, including myself. Do you want to tell us about a website, or is it on Amazon? Where do we get the book?
It's on Amazon and the usual suspects. You can get it, I think, directly from the publisher, Bain. They are a specialty house for science fiction. And I do have a website that'll talk about that book and all of the others. And it's robertconroybooks.com.
All right, excellent. Robert, thank you so much for being on the air with us today, and have a great holiday season. Good luck with the book.
Well, thank you, Larry and Robin. Thank you.
Great stuff. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
Habitat for Humanity of Marion County is a ministry dedicated to improving lives by providing affordable and decent housing. Help them help others by visiting the Habitat for Humanity Ocala home store on Northwest 27th Avenue. To schedule a donation, give them a call and they'll come and pick it up. For more information, visit habitatocala.org. Habitat for Humanity of Marion County, building homes, building hope, building community.
Hi, I'm Yvette, and I'm here to tell you a few things about ABC Frederick's Appliance. They sell not only new, but used guaranteed appliances. When you call ABC Frederick's Appliance, they will provide service on what they sell and any appliances that you own. ABC Frederick's Appliance is located in Bellevue, right over the railroad tracks. Call 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. ABC Frederick's Appliance.
Hi, Carl Champley here. Join me every Saturday afternoon for DIY Live, your complete guide to getting that DIY project started and finished the right way.
And when you need the right product for that do-it-yourself project, visit the DIY Home Center outlet right here in Ocala, just 2 miles east of I-75 on Northwest 10th Street. From carpet to doors to real wood cabinets, visit the DIY Home Center outlet today and tune in to DIY Live.
That's DIY Live Saturdays right here on WOCA, The Source.
Experience Christmas at Gaylord Palms, November 23rd through January 5th with Ice, featuring Frosty the Snowman. Join Frosty, everyone's favorite snowman, in a colorfully frozen retelling of this original Christmas classic. Relive your favorite scenes, hand-carved in more than 2 million pounds of ice sculptures and slides, plus the all-new Artisans in Action Live Ice Carving Zone and the awe-inspiring Nativity in Ice. For tickets and packages, visit christmas@gaylordpalms.com.
From our family of Ocala Utility Services to yours, wishing you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. May you and your family prosper during the coming year, as well as our entire community. As a reminder, the city's business offices will be closed December 24th and 25th, as well as New Year's Day. Remember, many of your business needs can still be accomplished online at ocalafl.org. While there, check out our pay-as-you-go billing, energy-efficient rebates, conservation tips, and much more. Happy Holidays from your hometown utility, Ocala Utility Services.
You've got a garden and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source.
News Talk 1370, WOCA invites you to discover your full business potential. News Talk Radio is the perfect environment for your advertising. WOCA's News Talk format pinpoints information-hungry, better educated, high-income adults. So use us to talk to them. Call 732-8000. 732-8000. We're Ocala News Talk Radio. News Talk 1370 WOCA.
Hey, I'm Gary. And I'm Eric. Did you know that Red Eye Radio is on WOCA The Source every night from 2 to 6 a.m. and it's live?
That's right. No tape shows here.
We know that the news doesn't sleep.
And neither do we. So we're here with you live from 2 till 6 a.m. every weekday. Call us 866-90-RED-EYE. So join me, Gary McNamara.
And me, Eric Harley, every weeknight to discuss the latest in news and entertainment.
Right here on WOCA The Source.
Here are today's headlines from The Source. WOCA. Gray Thursday appears to have taken some of the edge off of Black Friday. There were fewer lines at some local retailers Friday morning. Sales that started online as much as a week ago, combined with stores that opened on Thanksgiving Day, the so-called Gray Thursday, kept crowds down. Not everything went smoothly, though. Walmart Stores Incorporated said it would offer vouchers to shoppers in line for items at sale prices if the item sold out during specific hours. And nationally, Macy's appears to be among the most successful retailers on Black Friday, according to Bloomberg. Online shopping this year is expected to top a record, according to the Nashville Business Journal. The Business Journal cited a report from Forrester Research projecting online holiday sales this year would reach $78.7 billion in the United States, up 15% from 1 year ago. A technical glitch on a ride at Universal Studios had patrons stuck on the ride Saturday night. Tom Schrader, the spokesperson with Universal Studios, told reporters that there was a technical glitch on the Transformers ride. So as the ride is programmed to do, it shut down, causing riders to be stuck. There were about a dozen patrons on the ride when it happened, so Orlando Fire had to be called out to the theme park to help evacuate people off of the ride. A little over an hour later, all of the guests were safe and off the ride. No one was hurt, and no one suffered any medical issues. However, in an unrelated incident a short distance away, there was a medical condition suffered in the area of the Rip Ride Rocket Ride at Universal Islands of Adventure. The person was unresponsive, so Orlando Fire assisted in that case as well. Televangelist Paul F. Crouch, whose Trinity Broadcasting Network owns the Holy Land Experience theme park in Orlando, has died at the age of 79. Crouch, who founded the world's largest Christian television network, died Saturday after a decade of degenerative heart disease, according to the TBN website. Crouch's Trinity Broadcasting Network bought the struggling Holy Land attraction in 2007 for $37 million and quickly shifted the theme park's theological orientation from Baptist to the prosperity gospel preached by Crouch and his wife Janice. Born on March 30th, 1934 in St. Joseph, Missouri, Crouch graduated from the Central Bible Institute and Seminary in 1955 with a degree in theology. While at the seminary, he began his career in broadcasting on the campus AM radio station. His first job out of college was a radio announcer in Rapid City, South Dakota. Crouch and his wife founded the California-based Trinity Broadcasting Network in 1973. The network now includes more than 18,000 television and cable affiliates, according to the company. TBN recently has expanded into Israel. In the not-too-distant future, Amazon deliveries could come by air directly to your doorstep. The online mega retailer unveiled plans yesterday for a new delivery service called Prime Air, which uses unmanned aerial vehicles or drones that look like toy helicopters. The octocopters are not ready to take flight yet. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos said in an interview on 60 Minutes that the drones would be ready to take flight in 4 to 5 years, but an Amazon spokesperson pointed to an updated post on the company's website promising aerial deliveries as soon as federal rules change. Those FAA rules could come as soon as 2015. The type of flights Bezos proposed are currently not allowed. Unlike some other drones currently used, these would be autonomous. They would fly without a pilot. Bezos said the drone models Amazon is currently testing have a range of 10 miles and can handle products under 5 pounds, which is nearly 90% of the company's offerings. Other companies, including pizza chain Domino's, have also floated the idea of using delivery drones. And those are the headlines from The Source, WOCA 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
Habitat for Humanity of Marion County is a ministry dedicated to improving lives by providing affordable and decent housing. Help them help others by visiting the Habitat for Humanity Ocala home store on Northwest 27th Avenue. To schedule a donation, give them a call and they'll come and pick it up. For more information, visit habitatocala.org. Habitat for Humanity of Marion County, building homes, building hope, building community.
Hi, I'm Yvette, and I'm here to tell you a few things about ABC Fredericks Appliance. They sell not only new, but used guaranteed appliances. When you call ABC Fredericks Appliance, they will provide service on what they sell and any appliances that you own. ABC Fredericks Appliance is located in Bellevue, right over the railroad tracks. Call 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. ABC Fredericks Appliance.
Hi, Carl Champley here. Join me every Saturday afternoon for DIY Live, your complete guide to getting that DIY project started and finished the right way.
And when you need the right product for that do-it-yourself project, visit the DIY Home Center outlet right here in Ocala, just 2 miles east of I-75 on Northwest 10th Street. From carpet to doors to real wood cabinets, visit the DIY Home Center outlet today and tune in to DIY Live.
That's DIY Live Saturdays right here on WOCA, The Source.
Experience Christmas at Gaylord Palms, November 23rd through January 5th with Ice, featuring Frosty the Snowman. Join Frosty, everyone's favorite snowman, in a colorfully frozen retelling of this original Christmas classic. Relive your favorite scenes, hand-carved in more than 2 million pounds of ice sculptures and slides, plus the all-new Artisans in Action Live Ice Carving Zone and the awe-inspiring Nativity in Ice. For tickets and packages, visit Christmas at Gaylord